and then also go to meeting.
Oh, it's a.
Yeah.
What time did that start?
I don't know. Okay. What's it like push?
You didn't see it at the bottom.
Oh.
Thank you for what you
The select broadcast.
Okay, I tried. It didn't do anything.
Unfortunately, we're live.
really.
Are we?
Oh, yes.
Thanks, Sue.
You
We're
know,
recording?
I didn't change this, but we had,
Oh.
lose their.
Good, how are you, sir? Behaving yourself? Behaving yourself?
I don't. If you go around,
I still like to
Yeah.
have it.
Down to the right? That's where Donald like these.
Oh, yeah.
You remember him? And they just, all of a sudden, they just moved.
And that's the issue.
Bruce, you're over.
Four.
Doing good.
Yeah.
It's been a battle.
I know.
I went today to another doctor to check out.
Yeah, you have to
my right
share
arm, the EMG.
don't know.
I know.
Don't.
I know.
I did.
But, well, thanks for your,
What's that?
and
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
too much.
No, it's nothing. It's like,
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Want me to pick that up for you?
No, I can get it.
You got it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Stop stepping.
I know.
We need to put it on speaker.
Okay, where do you want it?
Just in the middle, closer to H.
I knew you, he said you were gonna say that, instead of you.
Paula? Here's,
well, did you fall?
you know, I'm not being crazy, but see, this is what I was talking about.
You're looking at 2023. You're looking at an old agenda.
It's being treated, so that's why it's all listed.
So,
thanks.
there. It was very,
Correctly?
It's not serious.
Yeah.
Are they? I don't know.
I'm glad you showed me.
I wish you were
See, I
there.
put it in my computer.
So who do I have? Who do I have to see? Who do I have to see?
that sounds like my son.
With me, no problem.
Coming down between you two.
See how some those are? No, but that's what you.
Well, we have a
that's-
seniors
that's
meeting.
something.
You gals, if you let me know when you're.
Well, we don't have Mr. Kingsbury, and we don't have Scott.
So is there anything else I should know about?
Is
Because I missed that one
Howard
meeting.
Holden's not coming?
So the tea and the fashion show is the first thing.
Really?
So glad to hear that you're okay.
With the 100? We got
Oh, I thought you were.
We got that.
Okay, so this might be wrong. I got over the fog, crashed my bike a couple of months ago.
Then there's the.
Well,
Sorry, I shoved my.
I got sideswiped by a truck.
Yeah.
Take here. Okay.
State Park. State Park.
Yeah, they just
Hey, Bob. Expecting a long meeting?
yeah.
is your mic on?
So now you do just carry it
I
around?
grabbed the other one. It wasn't working.
Oh, you gotta give it a minute. You gotta give it a minute.
But it was really something like the fifth, actually, fifth or sixth. wasn't it?
Until we grow up.
It was the 12th?
If you talk right into it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I mean, I had
That was the-
funerals last week.
That was the spare
That
one.
tells you what's happening in my.
Yeah, that's number one. I put a new battery in it and then talked to it. It's working.
Beautiful day, man, beautiful week. Every day.
Testing, testing. Testing, 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 testing. Testing.
I wonder what happened to this one. This one was supposed to be postponed to the 7th.
Yes,
The
but,
one down on Park
yeah,
County.
Marty,
Guy.
that was working. That's the number two.
I have a dog kennel and sporting and all that stuff.
Remember that one.
It got, well, because we didn't have it. It was on the agenda here. And it was postponed to February 7th. But I don't see.
So how's the mayor doing?
That was really
It got postponed again?
The red light now.
How are you?
Okay, that's by you.
Fine.
Good for you.
I went for an EMG today. Nerve problems?
That's not fun.
What's an EMG?
It's,
Well, they do.
the needles, and they check the electric of your nerves.
Quite,
It's very painful.
they're a little old.
Quite a while ago.
It's very uncomfortable to go as well.
I like that.
Yeah, well, I'm ready, go ahead.
And online, ready? Yeah. Okay. I'm not, I gotta get up. Call to order, please. Will everyone rise for the flag salute?
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May have a reading of the Sunshine Law, please?
Notice of this meeting was published in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
Okay, and an announcement, we will have no new business after 10:30. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Torty?
Here?
Mr. McKay?
Here.
Mrs. Kelly?
Here.
Mayor Gilmore?
Here.
Mr. Jacochi?
Here.
Mrs. Baggio?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Ms. Costco?
Here.
Mr. Bradley? Mr. Novarita? Mr. McLaughlin? Mr. Holden? Absent. And Mr. Krollpfeifer?
Here. We have a quorum?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, items for new business. We have a request for a one-year extension of the time Resolution 22-3 regarding BTC 3rd Hainesport Urban Renewal. Need a motion and a second on that?
I'll make that motion.
Well, we have a representative here.
Oh, we do?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Clint Allen from Archer and Griner.
I'm sorry, Counselor. Go ahead.
I'm Clint Allen from Archer and Griner. On behalf of the applicant in support of the request, I'm here to answer any questions and explain information that the board may have in support of our request for the one-year extension.
Board have any questions? Professionals?
I mean, maybe it's just a statement as to why the extension is requested.
That's a great question, sir, and the answer is we are still in the midst of going through the land swap, for lack of a better description, or land exchange with NJDOT to create the new jug handles contemplated as part of the site plan approval that was granted by this board. We're asking for just a one-year extension to get the approval that continued shelf life until January 5th, 2025. That will help shore up our portfolio of approvals. We'll keep financing lenders council happy. But we are in the midst of, really we're deep into that DOT land exchange where agreements are starting to be exchanged with the Attorney General's office for DOT and all the like that we've been trying to get through for some time. So we just need that one more year extension just so we can get hopefully to the finish line with DOT and then perfect our plan.
So presently, you expect to be able to get everything necessary from DOT?
That right now, that seems to be on the horizon with about a year from now, but we're truly optimistic just because of recent developments with DOT, where now Deputy Attorney General David Kaler is now sitting over agreements. Right, and now that's kind of a big deal. If you've worked with DOT before, and I got a feeling you have, when you start to get to those developer agreements and those purchase sale agreements and the like, that's when you know you're really getting closer to the finish line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question not only for you, but for Mrs. Tiver. I'm not saying we're not going to grant this request, but if we grant it, and let's say it's September and you're all clear with everything, can they get back on the, in the queue earlier, or do we have to wait till January 2025?
There's no need. They've already received their approvals. They're trying to get all through the compliance.
Okay, so it's not
So
going
it
to,
has nothing to do.
okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't something that has to come back to us. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I motion we grant the approval.
Second.
Extension.
Okay, extension, right.
That's that, correct.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Tricoci?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Cosko?
Yes.
And Mr. Colpfeiffer?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, professionals, thank you very much for granting our request.
Okay,
Have a
thank
great
you,
evening.
Counselor.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Next is, case B is Carvalho Carpentry, 2611 Marne Highway. Counselor,
Mr. Colpfeiffer?
yeah,
That case will not be heard this evening. They
Okay.
did not give proper notice, so they're going to have to re-advertise and all that, and they'll be back for the March meeting. So we don't
Okay.
have to do anything on that matter.
we don't have to do anything, okay? Makes that easy. Next is C, case 23-11A, 735 North Clinton. Counselor McAndrew, please, it's all yours.
Good evening, I'm Pat McAndrew, I'm representing the applicant.
Pat, if I can, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if the folks who are here understood what just happened or if they're here for Carvalho.
We are. We're the neighbors.
So that all happened kind of fast. So maybe we should,
That's me, I'm going quick. Okay. Mrs. Tyver, could you repeat what you said with regards to Carvalho?
The applicant is required to notify everybody within 200 feet of the property, and doing that, they made an error, so they cannot be heard this evening. They will have to re-advertise and re-notice to everyone within the 200 feet and put it in the paper again, so they cannot be heard this evening.
Can it be heard next month?
Yes, as long as they do the advertisement correctly, yes.
And what's the date of that, or will?
I think it's March 7th. You're going to get re-notice in the mail because they have to redo everyone,
Okay.
okay?
All right, thank you very much for your
It's
time.
first Wednesday.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Okay, Counselor?
Okay, so in order to recap a little bit, let me go over some of the history of the case. We were here in May last year, and the board granted a use variance to allow basically internet dealerships for cars to operate out of this site. We had certain limits in that resolution in terms of the number of dealers. The person living in the house would be connected to the business, things like that. And I think the idea was it was a very low intensity use because it was going to be internet-based, and cars would be delivered to the person's house, not to the site. If we would have cars on site, there would only be 2 per dealer, and basically to meet a New Jersey requirement, a historically old requirement, that you could hang your license in an office, and you'd have at least 2 cars on site for that dealer. So we'd have 15 dealers in inventory, but people would not be there every day. Cars would not be coming and going like a traditional car dealership. We were here for a site plan approval, which was a condition of the use variance in December. And I think the board wanted to see more detail in general, a picture of the house painted, what that would look like, what the sign would look like, and also what the lifts would look like, because we are stacking cars in certain parts of the premises too high. So we did those things, we submitted revised plans.
TWO. TWO high,
Yes.
not TO.
not TO high, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. I only have one witness.
Was it not so funny joke?
I know.
I liked it.
I thought it was good. I only have one witness, ONE, Mr. Nicholson, to, basically what I'd like to do is recap the changes in the plan. And should Bill be re-sworn in, Bob?
Sir, do you affirm that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Bill, you're still a licensed planner, licensed engineer.
Counselor, his credentials are fine. He's been here enough times.
So, excuse me, the revision of the plans amounts to, number one, we're moving about a 4-foot strip of asphalt across the front of the site, moving the parking back away from Route 138. So the landscaping is being increased in the area in front of the building, and we've had foundation plans in front of the building, And we still have 7 spaces facing the 48. They're about 4 feet further back, this landscape.
Can you speak into the mic?
Yep. And then we also moved the 4 spaces that were to the west of the building. They used to have 2 stacked and 2 unstacked spaces there. We made them all unstacked spaces, moved them further back. As well as we've moved all the stacked spaces behind the building and further away from the building a little bit, and the residential spaces that are next to the site. We've added a couple additional building-mounted lights to enhance the lighting on the site, and we've added some additional landscaping. We agreed to comply with Mr. Taylor's letter about additional landscaping. He would like to see if we can agree to do that, take care of that to his satisfaction.
Bill, when you submitted supplemental plans after the last meeting, you also submitted a rendering of what the house would look like,
Yes.
and you submitted another rendering of what the sign would look like with new panels for this use.
Yes.
And then there was some question about what did the lifts look like for the vehicles that would be stacked one over the other? And you submit that as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when you went over Mr. Taylor's letter, there was a request for, I think, an additional shrub planting and also additional tree planting. And to work out some of the landscaping details, that's agreeable to the applicant. Okay. Is there any other issues that we need to discuss or resolve that are open, or is it?
Not that I'm aware of, I think that's it.
Okay.
Mr. McAndrew, are you going to address the recent Taylor letter, February 2nd, 2024?
Bill, in the letter, there's a calling out of variances and different dimensional bulk variances. Most of those are a result of existing buildings and structures.
They're all a result of that.
I guess there's no new construction in terms of adding on to a building or making a building bigger in any way.
That's correct.
So everything we're doing is existing, except we're all removing the back porch on the house.
Correct.
And then where are the cars that are stacked one over the other, where are they located on the site?
They're all located behind the house.
They've been moved back further to the revised plan?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's no, Mr. Taylor's letter noted there's no loading space. And how do we operate without a loading space? Why is
So
it-
Pat, what number are you? Is it me?
It's, somebody's trying to adjust it. You're right. This one.
I know, tell them not to. I will. No.
No, I should have another one somewhere.
Pat, we were on B2, right? You're basically saying A through B are the existing conditions, correct? Correct. It sounded like you were saying that you didn't need any other variances. But I think we have a few in there. F, G, H,
Oh, the racking?
I, and J. I just want the board to be clear, there are new variances that are required. They're not all the existing conditions of the site.
Yeah, I didn't understand actually why the vertical storage racks needed separation. Because it's basically cars and equipment. But you did call that out, so we would need that in order to place the cars there.
So our ordinance has a provision that accessory structures have to be at least 10 feet, Kathy, from a principal structure. So a trash enclosure, a parking garage, a parking lift, or any other similar structure has to have a 10-foot separation from a principal building.
Okay. Then H, lot coverage, we're actually decreasing lot coverage by over 1% by removing some of the paving.
Correct.
Okay. And then the vegetated area, we're increasing from 20.5% to 21.7%. So those non-conforming situations are getting improved at least.
And then G is the side yard setback for those same structures. I think we skipped that.
Okay, you're treating the lifts again as a structure.
Accessories.
Again, that's just to facilitate storage. It's not a structure like a house or a shed or anything. Bill, can you go over the parking on the next page and explain how we're parking?
Yep, I'll try. So there are 7 spaces in the front of the site, basically 38.
Bill, when you go through this, and I'm sorry to interrupt in the beginning, but our ordinance doesn't talk about vehicle inventory storage. You can store as few or as many vehicles on your site as you choose for inventory. This 104-115 talks about vehicle parking spaces, customers and employees only. So of the 7 spaces along the front, only 2 of those are parking spaces, correct?
Correct,
So 5 of those are where you're storing your stuff.
that's correct.
So I think for the purposes of the variance, the 30, you can talk about where they are, but they don't count toward the parking. Our parking requirement says, 10 spaces plus 1 per employee. So that doesn't count those vehicle spaces. So I think we need to, you can show for reference what the testimony needs to be, because I think you only have 5 parking spaces on site. So that needs to be the relief.
That's correct.
Right, so I think we need to identify those 5 spaces and the relief be based on those 5.
Okay, those 5 spaces are located, 2 of them are on the front facing Route 38, closest to the driveway. The 2 residential spaces to the east of the building, and then 1 accessible space to the east of the rear building. All the rest of the spaces are so-called inventory, yes.
Right, so that's a total parking requirement on site of 27 spaces.
Mr. Nicholson, what was your last comment? I didn't hear what you said about all the rest of the spaces are.
The inventory, for the dealer inventory spaces.
Why, the 5 parking spaces we're talking about, how can they work for this dealership site?
Well, 2 of them are allocated to the residents as required by the residential site improvement standards, right? So there's 2 for the residents, and then there's 3 for the dealership portion of the site, which is the 2 out front, which is 1 customer, 1 employee, and then the 1 accessible space.
Okay, and I think it was a condition of the use variance that only 1 dealer could be on site at a given time.
Do I understand correctly? Yes.
So that's one reason why parking works.
Right,
You only have
right,
1 dealer at
right.
a time. And then the customers were supposedly going to be doing this on the internet, and then the delivery would be to their house. We didn't need a lot of customer spaces.
That's correct.
Okay. And when you add that up, the house complies with RSIS, and then the other parking works because one of the employees lives on site in the house, and the dealers only come 1 at a time.
Correct.
Okay. The next question was about circulation and also loading. Could you talk about that, Bill?
Well, the fire official is okay at the site as far as he's concerned, so I think circulation from a fire standpoint is covered. As far as circulation and loading, I don't think there's any loading necessary. They drive the cars on the site as is, they don't unload them from a truck.
Okay, that again was the condition of approval, that they be
Yes.
driven on
Yep,
site.
they're all driven on site.
There's discussion about further testing if necessary to follow up on the phase one, that's agreeable to the applicant.
Yes?
And what was the results of the phase one?
That, I don't know.
The Phase one addressed the septic system, long-term storage of hazardous substances and petroleum products from the previous uses, and the existing hydraulic lift in the service station. So those three things were noted in the Phase one, and we agree with that.
Was there a problem?
We don't know.
Wasn't whether there's a problem or not was not.
They just identified it. It's up to them to show us that it has no problem.
So there are just three potential sources of a problem.
Yes.
Bill, number 5 deals with the driveway. Can you discuss that?
Sure.
Well, is that, let's go back to, can we go back to the testing?
Sure.
Planner says in his report, paragraph 4, C4, testimony should be provided regarding the results of the Phase 1 environmental site assessment. I would say that what Marty just read is partial report on results. It doesn't really go to the ultimate issue of is there a problem there.
Well, I think my recollection of the phase one is it dealt with 3 areas of concern, and there had to be some follow-up work done, which would be the phase 2 part.
Right.
And we're agreeable to that, to make sure it's clean.
You're agreeable to the Phase 2. Are there any timeframes proposed, Marty, for, that generally recommended to get Phase 2 accomplished?
There is, as far as I know, there is no time, and it's up to the applicant to address the issues, and they will find out from getting into it how long it's going to take. I have no idea.
Right, but Bob, let me just talk about, you know, that they've got to do a phase, what we're calling the Phase 2 evaluation, but I would think the town would want that done pretty quickly, so that if there is a problem, then it could be addressed.
I would assume that they have to, they won't give permission to start working on the site until they address all of those issues. So the time frame is up to them.
Yeah, I assume the CO would have been issued, the work, like a completion CO, until that was done, the testing.
I don't know about that.
Well, it's, the question, I guess, is it's 2 parts. One, the testing and getting the results, and part 2, remediation if needed, and when that gets done. And how does all of that play into the issuance or non-issuance of the CO?
So I think that the remediation itself can easily be tied to the CO. We don't want people inside the building until we know it's cleaned up as much as it needs to be.
Inside the property, actually.
Yeah.
Not just the buildings.
In terms of when the phase 2 that sets forth what needs to be done, normally we would see things like that tied to either resolution compliance and the signing of the plans, or the latest would be prior to the issuance of a zoning permit or building permit. That way, before they start construction, we have a sense of what has to happen on the site.
So those deadlines should, I would think, be incorporated into the resolution.
I think just so everybody has a clear understanding.
Right, so we don't have to go back to this transcript to understand that. We have it right in the resolution.
And I think also Mr. Taylor's letter in paragraph C, number 4, where you said that soil and groundwater testing and sampling may be required, it is required. Okay, and what Mr. McKay is saying, that you can't proceed and start to occupy the premises until it's resolved. So that would be a condition of approval, right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
understood.
Instead of that, all that study and reporting, do you want to do that as part of resolution compliance? Or do it prior to building permit?
Isn't that the same thing, pretty much?
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the same thing.
So then the condition is, the phase 2 will be submitted as part of resolution compliance. And then any necessary remediation or cleanup will be completed prior to the issuance of the CO, or TCO as applicable.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
That makes it clear to
Yeah,
everybody.
it's fine. Bill, number 5 was the driveway, and also number 6 was curbing. You discussed both issues?
Yes, the driveway issues on the west side of the site, there's a gravel driveway that I believe the township owns the property. We originally chose all this area to be removed, then I realized the driveway services, I think maybe a sewer moving through here. So now I've only shown a portion of this to be removed, so it's not continuous onto our site. There would not be anybody using this along the site in that direction there. So that's that, and the curbing is, there's only a few places of proposed paving, and the curbing is not necessary at all.
Okay, the driveway we're talking about is going to stay in place where it is for the sewer easement, and the part you're removing is the connection to our site.
Correct.
It won't be a driveway to our site, it's just the township property.
So to avoid any potential for somebody wanting to sort of sneak through that drive that's been used historically, can we put bollards or bumper blocks or curbing or something in there?
Sure.
How many access points off the gravel drive onto the site are there? Just 1, 2? I mean, potential access points for a trespasser,
Well, other than what we just told, there's only one.
just 1.
Yeah, I think they have fencing in the rear on that west side.
On the location in the rear, that would be an opportunity, and they have that fenced.
Yeah, as long as that fence, I'm not sure if that fence, the plans don't really show whether or not that fence is,
What it's made of.
what's happening with that. But I think we can do, we can do bollards or,
What if you did a short sections, one or two, whatever it takes, of, a split rail fence or something like that? I mean, it's not to keep people out, it's just,
right,
just a visible
Right.
barrier.
right. And if so, a truck doing a delivery isn't sort of incentivized, if it's only 10 feet of grass,
Right,
we can make that a U-shaped driveway.
right. So does that work, Mr. McAndrews, if we,
Split rail fence?
yeah, a split rail fence,
Yeah, I
just
mean, that sounds.
a cedar or whatever wood that just
Yeah,
will
and
fade and blend in.
for durability, I would actually, we've done some very low guide rails that are actually split rail fences. They rot after 10 years and they break. Doing a 4x4 post with a pressure treated rail that's about 2 feet high will last 40 years, and it's the same.
Okay.
So we'll say a guide rail, bollards, or something similar.
Sure.
And number 7, the vertical racking system, we did submit those details.
Excuse me, did we address 6 with the curbing? You're asking for a waiver there, right?
Yeah, Bill described that it was not needed, because it was only in a few areas we were talking about, they weren't high volume areas.
Okay.
best of my knowledge, there's only 2 of these in the state of New Jersey. One is owned by the, past Senate President Sweeney down in the Vineland area, and one's in St. Vincent, called a dealer farm, where a bunch of dealers come in, and the towns, not many towns that I know of allow it and zone them, okay? The pictures look nice and everything, but I have a problem with, the first problem is C, the off-street loading. I don't know of a car dealer that doesn't buy from auctions or dealers, whether they're wholesale dealers or not. And the way you get cars shipped from auctions is generally a tractor trailer that would show up. So I don't think we really addressed 3 as far as off-street loading. I envision a tractor trailer sitting on 38 and unloading cars, okay? So I think there needs to be some testimony that that's not going to happen, and what teeth the municipality has in preventing that. And the other thing is, you know, we're cramming 15 dealers in here. There's going to be cars all over the place. I mean, I just don't buy a lot of the testimony, and that's just a comment. So, but I would like to, you know, ask at the planning board at least address number 3 and some of this parking, and how 15 people, only one's going to show up at a time. I don't see it work. I don't see how it's going to work. I'm not saying it's not going to work, but how are you going to enforce that one? You know, in addition to that 3, how one dealer is going to be there at a time? I mean, who is there somebody that, you know, he asks permission? Well, can I come to work? You know, I mean.
Well, I think,
it just.
yeah, we went through this a lot with, first, I think there's the use variance hearing in May, and also we did go through it again, I think in December. But basically, it's all internet-based, so the 15 dealers are not sitting in their little cubicles. They're
No,
sitting
they
at-
just need a township to zone them for a desk. And that's basically what we're doing. So our clerk signs off on their dealer, on their license, because it's zoned as a used car dealer. So you're right, you just need some clerk somewhere to sign off that this has been zoned as a car dealer. But say there's still cars, you know.
Yeah, but.
I mean, what you're saying is gonna happen is all, I guess, it's kind of okay, and I guess maybe these dealer farms are starting to proliferate, you know, many municipalities, but again, I don't see the unloading. I see a lot more cars, and.
Well, the testimony during the use part of the variance was basically that we would not, first, we have one dealer on site at a time by appointment only. That would be,
How are they gonna manage that? I'm just asking.
well, it would be, well, first, they don't really, number one, they don't really need to be on site because they're doing the sales on the internet, and the deliveries are being made from the auction or another place to the house. We went, I think,
So who's gonna clean the cars? Where do they get prepped? So they go get a car at an auction, and they bring it, you know, where does it go? And is that up to each individual dealer where he gets them, you know, done, or is it the prep work gonna be done here?
no, the prep work is not gonna be done here, and customers are not gonna come here. I think we discussed this,
No, I was here for the whole thing,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to hear it again. So you just need the municipality to zone it a used car lot, so you can give these 15 guys a desk and our clerk sign off that this is a used car lot. That's basically all you need us to do.
yeah, we need a place to have 2 cars stored and a place to hang our license, basically. But the delivery will be off-site, and the sales will be internet-based.
And
And
there's
the
never
prep
going
will
to be a
be-
tractor trailer there unloading stuff on 38, ever.
Correct, I think that was a condition of approval, it could certainly be a condition of site plan approval.
And the next question is, what legal precedent does the municipality fall under to grant 15, 20, 30, 10 dealers? Where's the municipality obligated insofar as how many? I mean, would it be prudent for the municipality to say, well, we'll give it 10 and then see how it goes, you know, go to 15 or 5, or what are we,
Well, the
what is
use
this?
variance,
Only because
Bruce,
he's
was-
asking for 15?
the use variance was conditioned on 16.
Yeah,
And
okay, so
we modified that because the site plan
that passed.
yielded less, so we reduced it
So
to
they
15.
approved that, right? They approved the
Use
use
variance,
variance for
yeah.
15 or 16 already. So
Well,
That's not correct.
the use variance was
The use variance did not set a number. It said that that determination would be made at site plan.
Okay.
Yeah, the plan that we showed for the use variance showed 16. And as we evolved the plan and came back for site plan, it's now 15.
Was there any state law that affected that number?
No, it was more like,
some testimony that there was some restriction that 15 was, or 15 or 16 was like a magic number.
no.
Could be 100, right?
Yeah, I think it was left, what would work on the site, what would fit.
Okay, thank you.
Well, my suggestion is start smaller and see how it goes, and the applicant can always come back for more. But I just think 10 pounds of you know what in a 5-pound bag. That's kind of my comment.
So we have a clear
That's how
record
you
then,
really feel.
just to recap what you guys just discussed. You have 15 dealers on site, and there'll never be more, correct?
Well, in theory, there's 15 licenses
15,
on site.
okay,
There should never be more than one physically on site.
there will only be the 15 licenses on site, but only one dealer at a time physically on site working, correct?
Correct.
And then the cars that are spotted, per the state law that you've given us, you have to have 2 vehicles per license. So 2 times 15?
Yeah, there's 30-some inventory spaces.
Right, so there'll never be more, well, there could be less, there'll never be more than 30 vehicles for sale on site.
Correct.
Okay. And there'll never be, this raises another question, there'll never be any car trailers, either the big ones or the small ones, parked on Route 38, unloading cars to be put on this lot.
Correct. The testimony was the deliveries here would be driven by a driver driving the car.
Right, so the 30 cars that we just talked about, they're gonna get there and leave by being driven by somebody.
Correct.
As opposed to being trucked in. Am I correct?
Correct.
Just trying to summarize all the facts so we know what they are.
And trade-ins are not brought to this site either, correct? They're taken directly.
I mean, maybe I'm missing something here. Where's 30 parking spots on this plan? I don't see it. That's a lot of parking. And then you have 15 for employees, 45.
Now, there's 5
Doesn't like the idea.
for parking generally, and then there's 30 inventory.
Right.
And some of the inventory are stacked too high.
Oh, okay, so you have it covered.
Yes.
And there's no elevators, if you will, on the front of the highway. That's the picture right there.
Correct.
There's
There's no second
on the
tier
highway.
on the highway, correct. More in front of the house.
Very ambitious. I agree with you. Very ambitious business plan.
All right, just one sort of related question. Are the 30 cars, what I'll call inventory on the site, they're for sale, I assume?
Correct.
Could be, theoretically, they could be sold, they're not gonna sit there forever. So what happens when one of those is sold? Does the customer come and pick it up? Does it get delivered out? Could be,
Delivery to house.
so they're delivered, okay. And then along comes a replacement car to fill the spot,
Correct.
okay.
Conceivably, would 15 be able to be there for 15-minute intervals throughout the day?
You can come by only appointment. By application in Napoli.
We have to swear him, Pat.
Yeah.
We have to swear him.
What do you think?
Or- Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give to be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I did.
Could you identify yourself?
My name is Solomon Rosenthal.
And what is your connection to this applicant?
I am the owner, so it's my name and this is my partner.
Okay, so you're half the
Can you
business.
spell your last name?
Sure, R-O-Z, like zebra, E-N-T-A-L. So, again, if I could mitigate some of the concerns, there's going to be very little activity on the property itself. In fact, most of the dealers aren't even going to want to go, because most of the activity is done online. And this business is extremely active. So most of the activity is not going to be on site. The whole point of this is to fix up the property, make it very clean, and it's really not going to disrupt the community on a day-to-day basis, if at all. There's going to be a guy who's going to live there, who's going to maintain it, a couple of appointments to move some cars, but it should really not be an effect on the community whatsoever.
Help me, as a naive car buyer, then, if I want to buy a car from one of your 15 guys,
Sure.
how do I go about doing that?
So it's a very relationship type of job where you get in with different types of friend groups and different friend groups get into one another, so they kind of it's kind of word of mouth. But there are also websites, so you could go on websites and you could find these cars online. Give us a call, and it's a very wet glove service. So you can send recommendations. We'll come on site. I'll come with the car. I'll pick up the car, and the effect on the property is none at all.
Okay, so I call you up and I say, I want a 2020 Mustang red convertible, give you specs, and you say, okay, let me see if I can find it, and you go find it?
Sure, yeah, so either auctions, there's dealer communities. I will come to I will pick up the car, I will meet the customer at wherever he chooses, if it's work or his house. Do the exchange, bring all the proper paperwork, and the site has nothing to do with, the site will not be affected.
And just to follow up on that, what if I'm driving down Route 38 and I see the sign, and I say to myself, oh, a car dealer, let me pull in? What greets that potential customer
Sure,
who
yeah,
pulls in
of
off
course.
the highway?
Yeah, so it is a free country. People are welcome to come in, but the inventory will be extremely, there's only around 29, 30 cars total. So it's not going to be, he's not going to have the pick of the litter, as they say. We'll recommend to go onto one of our websites, or we can have one of our dealerships call them to follow up accordingly and plan. So we will essentially ask them to leave and go on a computer and check it out. Then we can meet them at their house.
Okay, last question.
Sure.
You drive by traditional car dealers, used car or new car, and you sometimes see strings of balloons, you see all kinds of banners, you see flags, sale today or super sale or
Sure.
whatever. I'm assuming, and I want you to confirm this, that none of that will go on this site.
Sure.
Yes, it
That
will
is-
not go on.
That is confirmed. That is not our marketing strategy. Our marketing strategy is much more into digital marketing, online marketing. In fact, it's much more, it's called optimization, right? So, targeted ads. It'll be an extremely tame site. In fact, most people will not be there, and they do not want to be there because that's not where the business is. And there's a huge online business. So that's our target audience, just to fix up the property, create 15 jobs for 15 individuals to create business, and then we have a business plan behind it. So year one expectations, year two expectations, so on and so forth. And this isn't our first rodeo. We're experiencing this. We treat our properties well, and
Okay.
And do you have another business that operates like this?
with
Yeah, we have in Delaware, yeah.
And where in Delaware, or what's the do you have the website for that?
2860 Oglinton Road,
2860,
Oglinton Road.
you're gonna have to help me with that one.
Old Lantern?
Old Lantern Road?
Oglinton. O-G-L-E,
Ogletown.
yeah, Oglinton.
Okay.
Uh,
And you have multiple dealers doing an internet business. Is there a website for them?
Yes.
Do you know the website?
Oglinton. So, Oglinton, yeah, Oglinton.com. 2860 Oglinton.com.
I have a question, something you just answered Mr. McKay's question.
Sure.
You used the word "we." What is the ownership? 735 North Clinton Avenue, Inc. is the applicant, correct?
correct.
Okay, now you work for that company?
Correct. I'm the president of it?
Yes.
I'm
And how are you related to the gentleman you're asking questions of behind Mr. Nichols?
this is my father.
Okay, all right, that didn't come out in the beginning, so I just want to clarify.
Understood.
In answer to Mr. Taylor's question, the other facility that you have is another corporation in Delaware, right?
Correct.
But I'm not sure, but I thought there was some testimony that there was another facility that you have in New Jersey up towards Trenton or something?
Yeah, in Trenton, yeah.
On Clinton?
Yeah.
On
And,
Clinton.
and,
That is
okay, then what's the name of that entity?
It's 745 North Clinton Avenue.
The same as this one?
Yeah, yes. It's corporation. Corporation has two properties, you know. In a corporation, two
Okay.
properties.
But I
I
mean,
think the chairman's asking, what is the name of that? What is the name of the dealership in Trenton?
What
The
dealership?
application says 735 North Clinton Avenue
So that-
Incorporated.
Right, so that's the name of the corporation. I think the
Yeah,
chairman was saying, what's the name of
The
the
website.
dealership?
Eiserkopf. A-Z-E.
Sir, wait a minute,
R.
I gotta swear you in. Raise your right hand, please.
Yeah. Alexander Rosenthal.
You swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, whole
It's,
truth, nothing but
he has
the
a
truth.
call.
Yes,
Try.
Eiserkopf.
you know, my only point right now, just, Mr. McAndrew, so you know where I'm coming from right now, I'm not trying to make things hard, but Mr. Taylor asked a specific question, got an answer. Now we're getting two more answers. It's like, how,
Well, I think we're also talking about two different things. Clinton Avenue, I think, is a more traditional car dealership. And the question was, do we have another internet-based dealership? And we do, but it's in Delaware.
Delaware. So the Trenton one is a regular dealership you could drive by, pull in,
Yeah, with
Yeah.
the usual.
fanfare. Okay, but you're gonna use,
There's another one in 474 Clinton Avenue, just regular dealer.
where is that located?
Trenton.
In Trenton also?
Yes.
That's the address in Trenton, I assume. It's the location in Trenton.
Yes.
This Clinton Avenue address is where the
Yeah, two
traditional
locations in
dealership is in
Trenton,
Trenton,
yes.
right?
Two locations in Trenton and one location in Hainesport, yes.
And the two locations in Trenton are traditional car dealers?
Car dealers.
Yeah, traditional, yes.
Traditional, okay, as opposed to internet,
Yes.
okay.
So So Pat, you didn't answer my question, you know each other a long time. What obligation is the municipality under, in your view, to grant a 15 dealer farm on that location? I mean,
It already grew.
if we fix up the property, and this looks like an effort to fix the property up.
Correct.
It really does.
Yeah.
And that's where I was personally at. But we don't know these people, and they seem like nice folks, you try to give everybody the benefit of that. But what obligation are we under to give them 15? Can we maybe do a 5-dealer farm to see how it goes? And then them come back to the municipality for it's gonna take them time to get tenants in there. Is that something that you might be willing, the applicant might be, able to
Well-
consider, or the board, to see what kind of neighbors they're gonna be? I'm just gonna say one more thing.
Yeah.
And I'm a traditionalist, I was brought in here by good people that ran this town well, and we always wanted car sales down that end of town, high-end, high-volume car sales. That was a mantra for, our town, that we wanted them down there near Nissan, but again, personally, I think it's a decent trade-off if Bob's gets cleaned up, and we have somebody in there that's good, but would they, just a question, I'm allowed to ask questions, I don't think I vote tonight, would it matter to the applicant and the board if these folks started out a little smaller, so we could see and make some, a condition of approval for our zoning official to take a look at it, how things are going, and then grant them the full 15? Is that as a phase-in? What do you think about that? I want to know what the board thinks about that.
Yeah, I think when we left it a little bit open-ended on the use variance, it was to make sure the site worked, not that we would have like a test case for the next year or two. We're going to have limits. First, I think you have to look at the site. There's prior use variances there, and the site has been used for auto repair, body shop for many years. And what we have here is a very low intensity use, which is going to be limited by conditions, 1 dealer per time.
Says you folks, low
Yeah.
percent, says you folks, okay.
Well, yeah, but you have good enforcement people.
That you do.
Kathy's the best. Really, I'm not kidding around. I go to many towns, and Kathy's one of the best zoning officers in South Jersey, as far as I know.
Sorry, if I could tack on to that, the intention is that the dealers are not gonna wanna go to the site. That's not how they make money. So.
You rent a desk, you get your $600,000 a desk, and these guys, go to the auctions, and I get it. I mean, I was an used car dealer myself. I get it, I know how it works. Like I said, I think you'd be the 3rd one in the state, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what goes on in every town, but they're frowned upon by motor vehicles. They were gonna be done away with, but Sweeney has one himself. He was past state Senate president. And he owns and operates one, and he had a little clout in the state, just a little. So, and then there's one in Cinnamon, George Allen owned it. It was, very big. He's got 40 guys down there, 40 dealers. And there's cars all over, there's cars everywhere. So they bring cars in, there's no way to police it. And I'm just gonna say, these are nice folks, they're presenting a nice plan. I'm gonna stand where I'm at. I don't have a say, but I certainly am gonna make a comment on it. That phase-in would be really prudent for the municipality.
Well, Bruce, I think it's hard to phase it as a sort of a test case and also fix the site up at the same time. Because we're premising this on, part of it is it's low intensity, the other part is we're gonna fix the site up that needs fixing. And it has to be economically viable.
It's a big investment on our front.
Oh, I get it, and once you're there, and again, a lot of the people up here, but it was beat into me as a board member and a young freshman committeeman, used car sales were down at high-intensity used cars. I don't know what criteria we have now to enforce that on your lot, but again, if you're gonna clean it up, we'll take what maybe take what we can get, but I'm not so sure we're getting what's proposed. I don't see how you're gonna police everything you're saying you're gonna do. I just don't see it.
Well, I think the conditions in the resolution should address a lot of it, like the 1 dealer at a time by appointment, We're going through like where we're gonna park the two double stacked cars. That was an issue with the board. Landscaping was an issue. We're working through those issues.
If the voting, they believe it, they'll vote, they'll vote.
The other thing I think we can put in the resolution, and Mr. McKay was touching on it, you know, no like banana signs, no flags, all those things.
I believe, yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
believe that part, but I just don't see, you know, like I said, if the board believes it, go, you know, let them believe it. I don't see how you're gonna police 15 guys not showing up and people not coming, you know, to look at cars, and I hear you.
To Bruce's question, how do we police that?
So one of the things is that in the 22 years that I've been here, one of the things that I rely on as an enforcement end is to make sure that the resolutions are clearly defined with what the board projects that they want and would approve, as well as the client and their professionals agreeing to them. You can't technically put the cart before the horse. And the reason is that that's the point of our procedures here, is that this is all about law and dealing with it. Those resolutions and minutes that we have supported my cases in court more than you can imagine. The fact is that you have both sides that are agreeing upon something written in a resolution by an attorney, who then the enforcement agent, being the zoning official, has the right to take to court. And that's where things are held up, if it gets to that point.
Right.
The point of it is that any zoning officer should be doing his or her job in going through the town, making sure that things are up to par. I feel that this town has been fairly well protected by enforcement end, whether it's code enforcement, construction, anything else. You don't see really much businesses here that have been approved by this board with conditions and requirements totally off the charts. If any of you can name them, I would be glad to go out, but if you go up and down our corridor on a Warren Highway as well as other things, many of these businesses have been cited, and you folks have been the ones that have to deal with them when I put them in violation, and they either have to come back to you for compliance, redoing site plan. Many of the ones that we've had lately are because of violations. So the fact is that if the board approves a certain amount, then that's what a zoning officer is paid to do, is to enforce the rules that these people have put in and what the applicant has agreed to.
So in essence, we pull in and there's 3 dealers, because I know salesmen, if they get a sale, they don't care about the law. So they're gonna be on that lot, and they approach that lot, and you happen to see that. What would be the next step, is my question.
A nice phone call or knock on the door or a violation.
Okay.
And one of the things is that this town has been gracious enough to allow us in enforcement to do is to work with applicants. We are not the typical town that if we see a violation notice, you're going to court and you're getting in. It's a matter of working with things, and you get a whole lot more when you work with these people than when you go after them in a negative way. And in all the years that we've been doing this, is that seems to have really been proactive. We have our hands full, believe me, I have several right now. The issue is that you have to be fair. The applicant has to be fair to us, as well as these folks have to be fair to the applicant. At the end of the day, as I've always said for all these years, is that you folks all, make rules and regulations and you put them in there. But it comes to my office of who has to enforce it.
But at the end of the day, it's the planning board's decision, and our planner's decision to buy into the plan. And Kathy's right, we've been very successful over the years, improving plans that for the most part work. I mean, people grow their businesses and it becomes a problem, and she's had to deal with it year in and year out. Business is a little too good, this plan's, in my opinion, is starting out very energetic from the get-go. But again, that's my comment, if the board buys into it.
But what have we done for many years that businesses that have been blessed enough to be able to grow from what you originally have approved them for? How many times have I sent them back to the board?
You did?
For expansions or for changes of site plan. So it's not uncommon that we go through this exercise and we prove it the best that we all can. But life changes every day. Things go awry, and that's the part of enforcement, is that it's our job to make sure that what you folks have dealt with is that what we're enforcing.
But
You
step-
can't micromanage people, you
Correct.
can't.
Right.
But step one for the board really is, we deferred that number from the use variance. They're asking for 15, they're asking for 2 different setback variances, and they're asking for a very significant parking variance. So the board has to feel comfortable, number one, with granting a parking variance for the business where 25 spaces are required for the business and they're providing 3.
Yeah, but maybe it's me, but the 25 spaces is based on a traditional business where you're gonna have a lot of customers coming and going. That doesn't seem to be the model for this, right?
It may not be, and their numbers may be, it may be appropriate for them to have 1 employee space and 1 visitor space. It may very well be appropriate. None of us have a crystal ball.
No.
And that's why you all have to vote based on the best information.
Hey, I have a question. You're talking about 1 employee space, but you're saying that somebody is going to live in that house. The person that lives in that house, are they connected with the business?
Yes, that was a requirement of the use variance, now carried forward.
Okay. So is there, the 1 additional parking spot, is that for, say, 2 employees, or is that just a spot for that person living there?
Well, there's 2, because of RSIS associated with the house.
Okay.
And I think there's 1 handicap. What are the other 2, Bill? 1 customer, 1 employee. Okay.
Okay.
And the theory is that the one customer, 1 employee is the one dealer that will be on site at that point, along with the customer that they made an appointment with. Is that the thinking of the 2 spots? I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, basically.
Again, yeah, if that does happen, again, the point is that the business model is not that people are here. That's not where the money is at. That's not how this business has traditionally worked. The money is elsewhere. So that's how we see it.
Is the money elsewhere? You know, isn't Carvana, who's the biggest company that does this, is financially going out of business?
Well, everyone has a different business model. Everyone has a different business, yeah. Everyone has a different business
Yeah.
model, and I
Yeah.
think they are monopoly. I think they take out a specific kind of like X factor, working
Okay,
through
no, I don't wanna get
relationships.
us off.
Again, I'm sure I could talk your ear
I don't wanna
off,
get you
but
off track.
Again, if we are willing to play ball and we are willing to work with the board however they feel comfortable, if they want my phone number, you could have it personally. If you want our employee who lives in the building, his personal contact information to make the board feel comfortable, we're happy with that as well. So this is a relationship-driven business. We understand that well. We're not trying to make anyone upset. It's going to be, again, it's going to be a fight, and the only thing we want to do is fix up the building and put some businesses into it.
What job does the employee who lives in the building perform?
He would be a car dealer. So he would be a car dealer.
Will you be moving cars around?
Inside the building?
Well, no, on the property.
Residential.
On the
house.
property?
The fellow,
Yeah.
the person. right,
Yeah,
who lives in-
you'd really just be basically just taking care of the property, taking a meetings if needed. Once in a while, he will have to move some cars, really cleaning it. Just general housekeep. Again, he will live in the building, so he'll get mail there, or maybe put up a Christmas tree or something inside.
Is
But-
security?
Yeah, general security. It's always great to have someone on site. Yeah, just a caretaker. I mean, I will be in contact with them best I can. I'm always available.
Is he to be one of the 15 dealers?
I do not. No.
So we can describe him in the resolution, if necessary, as the property caretaker.
Yeah, or manager. Yeah. Again, if
Yeah, manager.
Yeah.
And he'll be sleeping there and living there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he won't have any people over?
For the cars there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, maybe on Christmas.
No parties
or Easter or
allowed.
something like- Yeah.
No. Can we add a no parties allowed? No holiday parties, only 5 guests are allowed at one time? I'm just joking.
Okay, yeah.
I'm messing with you.
Okay. Yeah, but again, he's generally gonna be, he's gonna be to himself. Yep.
And just to remind you, is that we do an annual business license as well as the fire official does his inspections. All those numbers are required in our office and enforcement to have contacts, and in this case, obviously, the caretaker as well as the business owner. So that's covered for any place that's here, that we have those contacts on different levels for enforcement.
Can I just put a footnote on all this discussion? Mr. McAndrew, you commented on something I said, that you're agreeable to a note in, or a statement in the resolution that, and I'm not sure how to characterize it, but balloons, flags, et cetera, are strictly prohibited.
Correct.
How would we describe that in a couple of words so that we know what we're talking about?
The only signage requested and considered by the board is refacing of the existing freestanding sign along Route 38, and no other temporary sales, facade, or other signs are requested or permitted by this ordinance.
Yeah, I'd include like the banana sign, flags, things like that.
I wouldn't mention them, because if we leave one of those out, it'll
Then
be that one that shows up. So, I would
Be
say
general.
all temporary.
Sales promotion materials.
Right.
Sales promotion materials kind of covers the word.
And they did discuss that last time with signage.
Right.
I think that's a good thing to note, that sometimes we have to be general so that everything is covered. It's obviously a misnomer with that. Just to kind of, how many parking spaces are you proposing again in the front that's going to be visible? Total, is it?
Along 38.
Yes, that people will see. 7, okay. I just, for the board's sake, want to point out that I pulled up a Google map. I have the luxury as the person sitting behind the screen here. From October 2015, there's actually 19 cars that I can visibly see at Bob's Collision when it operated, as well as the red, white, and blue flags that are being prohibited. And there are 4 or 5 vehicles in that municipally owned driveway to the east of the site. I'm sorry, to the west of the site, as well as a trailer.
Well, no doubt, it was a mess for many years.
Yeah, I mean, I counted 19 cars. And again, 4 in the municipal roadway to the right, and flags.
Yes, Bob and I used to have a
And
lot of conversations.
no landscaping or anything on the front along 38.
Yeah.
One other question, in this picture, obviously, the existing concrete, it doesn't look as nice as that. Do you plan on doing anything with that concrete in there?
That is correct, so that was part of the plan.
I think we talked about that in.
Well, it wasn't listed.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up,
The,
Mr. Chakotchi, because it wasn't.
Concrete in the front, we are resurfacing it?
Okay.
We are resurfacing.
And
I
put in
thought
the
that was-
shrubs, and the shrubs, all those shrubs.
Because I will say, it looks a
It's
lot
not listed.
better in here than it does
Than
currently.
existing, yeah. It's quite bumpy right now.
So-
All right.
so-
My car tires do not appreciate it.
Right, right, or if there's lifts anywhere on
Yeah,
that, they're not gonna be
it's
level.
not great, yeah.
Right.
It'll be a lot of work, but I think it'll be worth it.
Because in Mr. Nicholson's response letter, I didn't see anything about resurfacing the front.
No,
And that was one of my
don't-
concerns, because I brought that up at the last meeting,
Right.
that the patchwork concrete in the front remaining that way would not benefit the improvement hopes here from you guys. So I believe the last time you guys did agree to doing that, but it's not in Mr. Nicholson's letter.
Yeah, Bill, you have a couple things in your key there.
Right.
Is that a mill and overlay, or?
Except for the bottom, yes, that's the whole front area.
Right, but that's not the same. You have like 2 or 3 different hatch patterns in your front parking. And your mill and overlay is just or is that just your existing concrete underneath? So I guess is your testimony that you're gonna do a complete mill and overlay
Also from the site, yes,
of the concrete?
and the driveway.
So you're gonna mill the concrete and,
Well, no, we overlay the concrete with building driveway. You can't really mill concrete.
well,
You can, but, no, but just
I
probably,
know DOT does it. Are you reconstructing the concrete then?
no, we just prepare it and we put a top course of paving over top of it.
Of asphalt over the existing?
Yes.
Or, I don't know, I'm saying where the concrete slabs are.
Yes, in front,
Right, so you're gonna do a 2-inch
inch and a half to 2 inch and a half.
of concrete?
No,
No, but I'm saying
Asphalt.
where it's concrete. You have areas of parking that's concrete, correct? In front of the building?
Yes,
How is that to be resurfaced?
inch and a half overlay of pavement,
Of asphalt,
asphalt.
directly over? Okay,
So it's gonna be black.
right, so
Won't
no,
be like
right.
this picture.
So no milling for that, you're just gonna you're gonna pave asphalt over the existing concrete?
Yes.
That'd be better.
It'll be black asphalt.
Change all the.
Like our parking lot.
Mr. McAndrew, I think we were down through, I guess we're down to 6 right now, talking about paving. That's C6.
Yeah, before we go on with that, I have to get something off my chest, okay? I'm not comfortable with the answer to my question about the name of the entities, and Mr. Rosenthal, is it pronounced?
Correct.
Right, what is your first name, just for the record?
Solomon.
What is it?
Solomon?
Solomon, okay. When I asked you about, who you work for, you said you work for the 1725 North Clinton Avenue Corporation. I asked you what your position was, and you had to turn back to your father, and I'm president, right? But 735 North Clinton Avenue, Inc. was not incorporated for the purpose of this facility on Route 38. It's for Trenton location, right? So who are the officers up there in Trenton for this corporation, the same entity that we're dealing with on your application?
Understood. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not, I'm as involved as I can be. This is a project that I'm taking up.
Does
I'm taking
does
up-
Mr. Rosenthal, your father, know the answer to my question?
He does.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's two property for this corporation. For 725 North Clinton Avenue, two property. He own this gentleman, Solomon Rosenthal.
He owns both of them?
Yes. Yes, he own both of them.
I'm hung up then on, I'm going to use a tough word, credibility, because if you own both of these entities and you're the president of this entity, I don't understand what the reluctance is or the inability to answer the questions I'm talking about. Maybe it's my fault because my background was in equipment leasing and financing, and one of the things we always dove into big time was the principles of a corporation, and when initials were used, I wanted to know what the initials stood for and so forth and so on. But I hope I'm not being overly picky, but I don't feel comfortable with the answer I'm getting on this one thing. There's a couple of other issues, too, that we're still going to talk about, but I'm hung up on this one right now. So somebody up there at the podium has to help me get over this hurdle. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm not saying that you're not credible. I just can't get an answer to my question.
What question? He's owner this company, you know? It's
But in the prior visits that you had here, Mr. Rosenthal, and what is your first name?
Alexander?
Okay, you came in and testified. I thought you were the owner, you were the
No, he's the owner.
doing everything.
No.
And now,
I'm doing everything, but he's owner of this company, you know?
okay, I'll just leave it there. You know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I think it's just a family business where the dad does a lot of the work and Solomon's getting involved more in the business, in a different kind of business.
As I get older, as I get older, then as I've gotten older, I've taken on more responsibility, and I started to modernize it. So I'm not an attorney, and that is a fault, but that is something that I'm starting to take more on and challenge, take on that responsibility. What I bring to the business is a modernization of it.
Okay.
So I'm learning as much as I can from my father, and it is a family business, and I'm starting to modernize it. That's why he has this older, physical car dealerships, and I'm starting to modernize it. So those are my strengths.
Okay.
I think the older generation, traditional car sales, and Solomon, younger, the thinking internet car sales. And that's why he's more hands-on with this now. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think, and Solomon, maybe this is a question for you, are a majority of the cars sold retail here, or are more cars wholesale?
Yeah. It's really a combination, so it's really specific to the dealer and kind of where his kind of niche is in the market. Sometimes it is overseas, sometimes, these like Toyota, Toyota trucks last a really long time, a couple 100,000 miles. That might not be that palatable for the car market here, but overseas, it's a huge market.
But a majority of the cars here are wholesaled, correct?
A majority of again, it really depends.
To overseas?
Not majority, I would say it really depends. It really depends on the specific buyer, on the specific car dealer. I would say it's roughly split.
Okay, but pretty close to half and half?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, again, I'm gonna beat a dead horse. So, Cinnamonston has a dealer farm. There's 200 cars down there. Logistically, you guys are buying a car at an auction. Where does the car go? Are they bringing it to their house?
Yes.
It's gotta go somewhere.
Yeah.
You can't keep on title on, unregistered cars or properties. They go somewhere, and in this dealer farm, in Sweeney's dealer farm, the cars come to the lot, okay? And I'm not disputing your claim that the customers are not going to, are going to come to your lot to view the car, but where logistically does the car go after it's bought at a wholesale auction? It's gotta go somewhere. Again, some repairs, sites, but they have to show up on your lot. I mean, especially if they're being delivered by the auction to your lot. And as you know, and I should maybe ask you this, where are you and your dealers, your dealers that are going in this farm, where are they getting their cars from? How do they get their cars? Where do they buy them from?
So a lot of these dealers get their cars from auctions. The ones that are wholesaling them overseas, they take them directly from the auction right to the ports. So they never touch our site here. Furthermore, if they do have to pick up a car, they will drive them directly to the owner's house, or drive them themselves. Yes.
I'm going to call Evangeline Autos tomorrow morning and tell them I want a '66 Corvette. They find one. Why did they bring it to you and not deliver it to me? Because you're going to deliver it to me anyhow. So why do they need you?
They do deliver it to you.
That's
Right.
Whatever one of your internet providers is, I go to them, tell
Which
them I want
sign?
a car.
Which sign?
They find a car.
They deliver it to you.
Why do they bring it to me?
They do.
Hainesport to you? Why do you bring it to me?
They have bringing it to
Yeah,
you.
they do.
They do. They take it to you.
They take it to you.
They have drivers.
Take it to you.
You hire drivers to pick these vehicles up from the auction sites, correct? And they drive them directly to the buyer?
Not me so much,
Right,
but
but
it would be like the dealer, so
Right.
basically like, he's basically starting his own company.
Right.
Which creates jobs, and it's quite effective, and I've seen
Right.
people raise entire families off of it, and it's very nice to see. So they hire people, and they will send them across.
Right. So as a consumer of this type of transaction, myself, I went through this a few years ago, I am curious, it was brought directly to my house. It was purchased from an auction. It came from Arkansas, directly to my house. They dropped it off via the trailer that they transported it, and they took my car as a trade-in. But I am curious, where did my car go? It went back to that same auction, the same location as the new?
It's, you know how many hundred auctions, you know,
Okay.
around here.
So it's probably already been, the transaction for my car has probably already happened.
Or it could be overseas.
Yeah, okay, I get it. I know, it's all
Yeah, it's all.
electronic.
And if I could add, when I first got my driver's license, I was a driver. So I remember when I first got my driver's license, I would go to the auction, I would take one of these cars, I would go with him, I would take one of these cars, and I would drive them right into these big containers. And that was when I was, when I first got my license, and now I'm 31, and I've been able to.
So the big guys have, right in Blanco, Carvana has probably 3,000 cars that are getting reconditioned, tons of mechanics. Auto Lenders has there's a reconditioning process. It just doesn't go from the auction right to a home.
Mine did.
Right to a consumer. I mean, I don't know where you bought your car, but it might have been prepped before you got it from wherever you bought it from. But it has to get fixed somewhere, and I mean, I have friends in the paint business that fix hundreds of cars a week, they all get gone over, and they don't come retail ready off and on. I've bought thousands of cars from auctions.
What is NAID?
NAID is a place where you take a car, I can take it, they can take it, and it really serves the New York market. The New York guys come down and buy them because they're priced kind of high, and they buy cars at auction. They come off lease. If Ford, has 1,000 cars to lease. Every car, when you ride up 206, that's going into NAID's semi-reconditioning area, so they can attest to the condition of the car. Because certain assertions are made at the auction, and the auction has liability. They can't sell you a car and that the transmission doesn't work. So they get a quick going over, but the cars come out and they still have to be gone over and made retail ready. But the auction has liability, when the auctioneer's up, if he knows it's got a bad trade, he can't make an assertion
Right.
that it's got, they gotta kind of know what they're getting.
So it goes there, and then it goes to the dealer.
Huh?
Then it goes to the
A
place
dealer
where it's
buys
being
it.
sold.
A dealer buys it. One of
Right.
these guys might buy it.
So it's
And-
going through that process at a location other than where it's being
Well,
sold.
maybe his guy, but I've never seen it, and, everybody, we had a guy right here in town, he sold 17,000 cars out of that corner lot on Warren Highway in Hainesport, Mapple Road. They all need something, it's just, you never get a car. So they have to go, and he may take them to his, a reconditioning center, he might, but
Well,
the
that,
bottom line is 15 dealers is energetic. It's just energetic for a lot of activity. Cars they just have to go somewhere.
Well, one of the things that your questioning raises is, and we should ask the applicant, is there going to be any reconditioning, repairs, or inspections of
Sorry.
cars at this site?
No.
Answer is no.
No.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about no reconditioning, we're talking about no everyday deliveries or taking off regular customers. We're talking about none of that. We're talking about 30 cars, space, and 15 dealers, that's it.
So
And
the
I would-
one-story masonry building, that's your offices? That's where you're going to have the desks for the 15 dealers?
Yes.
That's just going to be office?
Like,
Just office?
Yes.
All right, well, that's what they're testing.
And I would think the
No place to
resolution,
wash them, there's no place to do it.
Well, it's not entirely office. There are 5 cars stacked inside. There are display cars inside.
Inside the building.
Inside the back building. So it's mostly office.
There's no place to wash the cars there.
No, no.
Do anything.
I think the question was servicing the cars, is there no servicing in that building or on site?
well, I would think again, the resolution could specify that no on-site repairs, conditioning, or things of that nature. I mean, that could be addressed in the resolution.
And the conditions from the use variance application that I think the notes are now shown on the plan, but they should probably be carried through to site plan. The house will be occupied by an employee or caretaker of the property. Trade-in vehicles will not be brought to the site, will be taken directly to an off-site auction facility. Aside from on-site inventory, cars purchased by customers will be delivered directly from the auction to the customers. Only one dealer will be permitted on-site at a time due to lack of parking. On-site inventory vehicles will be driven to the site and will not be delivered by trucks. Not more than 16 dealers may operate, which has now been revised down to 15. And only one dealer employee, we said, to occupy the site.
I mean, I would say if the issue of where they go from the auction, do they go directly to the house or to some other place to get refurbished, reconditioned? As long as they don't come back to this site, they may not go directly from the auction to the buyer's house, but they're not gonna come to this site.
That's correct. There's no reason for them to.
And I think there was some testimony about detailing or minor repairs would happen off-site, but whatever that is.
Right.
It goes from the auction there directly to the
Yeah.
customer and never here.
Because if things changed, when you bought from the auction house 53 years ago, it was, you bought it as is. Now you have to, it's certified in some way? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, auctions,
We buy car only for green light.
right, green light, that's right. To get the green light, they gotta know that the auction has a fiduciary duty to know that the train's not blown. They give it a green light, it's a good car, and that's what the guy, they all jump on.
You have to
They
make
also have
certain
yellow lights and red
representations.
lights where
Okay, so they're saying that at the auction, that's not,
That doesn't mean it's clean.
okay, but
That doesn't mean it's ready for retail.
But that's not our concern.
But
They're
you're
not ready
buying, if I'm calling him
I'm trying to point out.
whoever, to buy a vehicle online, by phone, I call you up and I say, I want a Toyota, Corolla.
Bless you.
You're gonna go buy it, it's no guarantee, because I'm looking for a used car, obviously, or if I'm looking for a new car, you would get it some other way. I don't know, maybe you don't sell new cars.
That's not our target audience.
Right, you're buying used, I'm buying some fancy used car. You say you've got one at the auction, blah, blah, blah. Bring it to me. If I don't like it, it's not a deal, or I buy it no matter what.
Yeah, it's really up to the consumer, consumer
Right,
choice,
so
right?
if
If I
you bring it
deliver,
to me,
yeah, I bring
it's
it to you,
documented,
you don't
and
like
I
it,
say,
you
okay.
take it away, we can return it back to the auction, we can send it overseas. It's really just a big network that gives us lots of flexibility and buying power, which really resides in the consumer.
Right.
I thought all sales at auctions were final. You're saying you could return it to the auction?
To put it through.
Yeah, but you put,
Return it meaning, send
you then put it into
Yeah.
auction for resale, okay.
Send it, just send it back through, yeah. It's a pretty much a volume game.
Okay.
Just a question.
Okay, well, we want to move on to Mr. Taylor's letter, C7.
I think Mr. Murphy had a question.
I just want to go over, see, the problem is, you're a young guy, God bless you. A lot of us are used to the old-fashioned dealerships. You pull up and some guy comes out and goes, you're the guy that looks like, this is not this at all. My son would get this in a minute. He works for the Mazda Corporation, and they do lots of sales. But the whole concept of this is, these are kind of, for lack of a better word, dummy cars. Every dealer in the state of New Jersey to sell cars has to have a home. this is going to be their home. They have to have 2 cars on the lot per dealer. So whether it's 10 cars or 30 cars, these cars are going to sit there, they're going to stay there. I want you to correct me if I say anything wrong, but these cars are going to be there. You're not buying, the public in general is not buying and selling cars on this lot. These cars could be there and sit there for a year or longer. The cars that are being bought and sold are going from auction houses to directly to consumers or on a ship out over to China, wherever they go. I think a lot of us have forgotten, because it's been almost a year since the use variance, these could be inflatable cars. They could be built out of styrofoam. The state says you have to have 2 cars, fine. Doesn't say they have to have an engine in them, whatever, they're going to be there. The sales are taking place on these computers. And a lot of us, I think, are missing that whole concept. But I do remember what you guys said at the beginning. The sales are happening here. There's not going to be 5 people every day going to this facility and buying and selling cars with cars coming down off the lift and out in the road, or trucks pulling up, unloading 30 cars. That might happen once.
Sure.
30 cars a lot. So I just want to make sure that's my understanding. I think a lot of us up here have forgotten what you told us in the beginning. These are phantom cars. They're not being bought and sold. That's right.
Chris, you gotta look at the model. The case came up, I know yelling, it's a dealer farm, that's the word. There's 200 cars there, okay? Same premise, okay? And I get it, this is a method to usurp the used car laws that we're gonna do the minimum. You're gonna have a desk, you gotta have a phone, a landline you have to have, you can't have a cell phone. And the clerk, municipal clerk, has to sign off that that spot's zoned for used car. So you're right, this is the bare minimum to usurp the, so to speak, laws of used car dealers, okay? And, but yet there's 200 cars sitting there outside of Yellen's place. Go down, take a ride, it's right down to, right, you know, where the old Pontiac dealership used to be on. So the cars have a way of showing up, okay? And that's the only thing that I'm saying. And I'm not doubting him, but how's he gonna control 15 dealers, what they're doing? You know, how's he gonna control that? I mean, I don't see it, especially when, and the other one, I forget where it's down in Vineland, or I've been down there, but it's been about 10 years. There's cars all over the place.
In this case,
Let's see how you're gonna police. That's what, I don't know.
So,
first we
yeah.
have a resolution
I grew
that
up on the
says
street
30
from
cars,
I
15
mean, I
dealers.
know,
Now we're gonna have
who the original owner was, or who lived there when I grew up.
These sites, not the whole
Yeah, it was
200
the same.
cars.
It's 200 cars, yeah, so.
It was a garage.
Again, this is, you're saying dealer farm in a very kind of like, in a,
Well, that's what they're called.
well, who named them?
Car business.
I understand it, but that's really just a name, but that's one way to observe it. Another way is that this is a business. This is 15 people getting an opportunity to start a business where they can't. These 15 people generate a lot of money for the state. There's lots of, yes, clerks have to sign off on it, but there's a lot of revenue that goes into the state for that. That's extremely positive, right?
Well, sure, but that has nothing to do with Hainesport. What you're asking for is the board, you know, to grant you a site plan for something that I'm gonna stand firm that I don't think you can control. You're saying you got one dealer at a time. How are you gonna control that? Then you say, then every dealer farm, and I'm gonna keep blowing that out there, I've been to, has a couple hundred cars on it, but yet somehow our zoning officer is gonna magically, handle this whole thing. And I personally don't wanna put her in that position, or whoever it is. I mean, if you have a way to control it, I don't know why the other guys don't, you know what I mean? I don't know why the other guys, if you were telling me you were coming here with a ShopRite, I will go to a ShopRite and see how a ShopRite operates and say, oh, okay, you're bringing a ShopRite to here, this is how ShopRite is. Why is your ShopRite gonna be different than any other, than all the other ShopRites? So I'm just throwing it out there. I think you're nice folks. I think you should start out a little small. I get the revenue, these desks go for about $800 to $1,000 a month, these desks. And that's what they sell for. So, I don't know what he's gonna charge. I don't know if I have the right to ask. but it's a significant amount of revenue that this applicant's gonna get from these desks. And it all sounds great, and, you know, you wanna fix the building, I just think that we should make sure.
So let me ask you a question, since I'm gonna be the enforcement agent here. Sure. So, I understand that we're talking about 15 desks, 15 computers. As we know the world today, most people don't wanna get out of their basement that work on computers all day, they don't even wanna see the rest of the world.
Sure.
So do these 15 so-called salespeople, they can work from their home, they could work from their car, they can work from Wawa parking lot, on their computer, on their website that they have,
Sure.
and sell a car?
That is correct, yeah.
So why would most people today, who Amazon can't even get to come back to work in the offices, or any other major corporations, why would Joe Schmo, who is the salesman, if he has the opportunity to sit all day in his shorts, drinking his coffee in his basement, and selling 10 cars and making $50,000 every 3 months, why would he come here? Would
He
that
might
be
be
a correct
married.
statement?
That would be.
Right.
Yeah, that is a correct.
Exactly, and to the modern day, we are all older here, okay, that's a given. Speak for yourself. Is that we are used to traditional things.
Sure.
But as we see the world change, and obviously that the world has become so computerized, and that, again, many of us have bought cars online, had them delivered to our houses, the whole 9 yards. I find it hard to believe that I have 15 people who are gonna be rushing to this site to sit in a room where they have the same exact availability to sell a car from their basement in their shorts while they're drinking coffee on a cold winter day.
Exactly, 100%. Again,
Right.
there's,
All right, I just want to put my opinion on the,
yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone has a different business model.
Right.
Everyone has a different business model.
I guess she's been to Cinnamon, she's been to the Sweeney's down there.
Not the-
Okay.
but I think the site also limits, I mean, I know it's nice that, okay, Cinnamon said it has 200 cars, well, this site won't hold 200 cars. So I think realistically, you know, we could go from 15 to 10, what's that gonna do? We move half a dozen cars? We're not talking huge
The
numbers,
same volume, yeah.
you know, in my opinion.
The business model that, and I'm not speaking for, but when you buy from Carvana, or you buy from, you know, some of these internet guys, that car came from a facility, it was parked at a facility, you know, a recon, you know, other lenders have it. I mean, I just talked to them today about coming to get a car of mine. They're gonna come get it, and they're gonna take it to their facility for recon. These come, and they come on a truck. So a truck shows up to get them, which I agree, maybe they're not gonna show up at your place, but they're usually delivered by a truck. We've all seen the Carvana truck, you know, going, they show, pulls up in front of your house and dumps a car. But these are major retailers. These aren't, I don't know, I don't wanna put any moniker on what these guys are. They're primarily wholesalers, a lot of these guys, I get it. But, it's a different business model than what we're talking here. The traditional, you know, and it's, you're right, it's online, and it's becoming a way to, but again, who's gonna control what happens here? And if Kathy wants to take it on, and she sounds like she does, like she's
I've
pushing
taken it
for
on for 22 years, what the
Well,
hell's
you
the
sound like,
difference?
you
at this
sound like,
point, to
you
be
sound
honest
like
with
you're
you?
pushing for the project, and I don't know how, you know, why that's happening, but I think it's the planning board, if they wanna, I'd say try 5, you know, phase it in, but again, that's it.
Let me ask a question of Mr. Rosenthal, president of this corporation. But before you answer my question, I have a follow-up part of it, okay? The question is, to pacify some of the questions that have been going around here for a while, how long do you think a specific vehicle is going to be on that location? Don't answer it, okay? Because you can't. It's not in business yet.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you, as president of this same corporation with a facility in Trenton, how long are the cars on the lot up there?
It's not like
That's a traditional,
That's a traditional site.
Pardon?
That's a traditional
Delaware has
used car dealership up in Trenton, the one that's comparable to what.
Oh, the Delaware, it would be the Delaware, and you're not an officer there?
I'm not an officer.
Okay, then could Mr. Rosenthal Senior answer my question? How long are the vehicles in Delaware on property?
Delaware, by 6 months.
6 months?
Yes, 6, maybe more.
All right, now, see, now I'm really getting confused, because
Okay.
it's my understanding from everything that's been going on here, just tonight,
Yes.
that somebody contacts one of these dealers on your property
Okay.
to get a vehicle, they find it at auction, they buy it, they bring it over to you people, they drop it off, and 2 days later, the customer comes to get the vehicle.
no,
What am I missing?
It goes straight to the customer.
goes right to the customer.
Right to the customer. Okay, then why do you need any parking space? Oh, because there's
The state,
two cars
Yeah.
per state?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Mr. McLaughlin stated that we need the minimum to qualify.
Okay.
Basically, place to hang your shingle.
Got it, okay.
and your, 2 spaces.
so
All right.
it's essentially, sounds like it's essentially a less expensive, if you want to call it that, way, for somebody who wants to be a used car dealership, but can't have a traditional used car dealership because they just don't have the money to have that kind of inventory. So they get the license.
It's much more affordable. They could, you know, the threshold is much lower, and then they get to start a business.
So
and then grow
it's a
that.
barrier, it reduces the barrier to entry to that type of business.
All right, but
It would give a guy like me an opportunity.
a follow-up on my question. Who puts up the cash for the 30 vehicles that are going to sit on this parking lot? Who owns them?
The cash for the properties, would that?
No, not the property, the vehicle.
For the vehicle?
Yeah.
It would go on to us. It would go on the property itself. It would be on us.
Who owns?
The cars.
Who owns the sample cars that sit on the property to satisfy the state
15
minimum?
dealers.
15 dealers.
Each owns?
Each dealer, yeah, own 2 cars.
So it's part of his capital investment?
Yes.
Okay.
And they can borrow that money from you? You guys can do that?
Whatever, if you need for us, you know, we have credit from the auction, $5 million.
Right, that's
We
what I'm
can
just-
buy car from auction
Okay,
one day, $5
So
million.
they could buy the cars from the auction and
Yeah,
be there too.
yeah, from our name, you know, $5 million.
Okay.
Or they can finance that through you?
Yes.
That's part of your.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I have one question. How often do those cars move, like the 30 that you have on the property? Do you find that the dealers sell them easily? Do they normally sit there? Do you have any idea how long
Sure.
they'll be?
In Delaware, they move roughly about every 6 months.
So that's only, they'll be moving cars in and
Yeah,
out on
yeah.
occasion?
On
Yeah.
occasion, it's very, yeah. Yeah, sometimes they do sell, cars, if someone wants it.
And the cars are reputable, like they will be checked out, like when they come from the auction? Do they go somewhere?
Well, they will obviously have to be driven there, of course, and then we try to buy cars that don't need, that.
The green light.
Green light cars, exactly, so they're kind of coming and going, and they'll be moved out. Again, based on our previous experience in Delaware, it's around every 6 months.
So the object is to have cars, those 30 cars that look good as opposed to being wrecks sitting on your property.
That is not the, that is
That would not be good advertising.
Correct, yeah.
That is not what?
That is not expected behavior.
Okay.
How many dealers are in Newark?
In
Trenton.
in Delaware?
Yeah,
30.
Newark, Delaware.
30 dealers? It is Newark, right, Delaware?
Yes.
Is that the town? So 30 dealers, do they also have the same requirement where there's 2 cars per?
No, it's no requirement over there, you know, we don't have space, we don't have 2 cars, only
don't
1 car for each.
Okay, so you have 1 car for
Yes,
every.
yeah, Delaware 1 car, yeah.
In Delaware, you can get a wholesale license
Yeah, oh,
in your house. You don't need to have that. But you get a wholesale only license. You don't need to have any, you can just get a wholesale only.
And that's limitless cars you can sell? Because I know if you don't have a license, you can't
You have to sell 10
sell.
cars a year in New Jersey to stay a dealer.
Okay.
They'll come, they're starting to enforce it, come after you, if you don't sell.
Right, there's a maximum that you can sell as a,
Sell $1 million, but
no, as a normal civilian. You can't sell 100 cars.
no.
There's a maximum, right? Like if I
No,
sold
they'll
3
come
cars,
in, yeah.
whatever that is, I don't know what the number is.
Okay.
So you have to have a dealer's license to sell 100 cars, hypothetically.
It becomes more or less of a sales tax issue than anything, because the state wants to get their sales
Their
tax.
money.
But I don't know the answer to that, if like a guy like me, you sold too many cars, what's gonna happen to us? But-
Yeah, it doesn't come into
but,
play.
you know, Yeah, but Delaware, you don't even need a desk or a phone, you can just be, well, you need a phone, I'm sorry, but, you know, a landline, but it can be in your basement. I have a friend who just did it, that's how I know. But again,
Okay.
it's a lot,
We're in
put
New
on
Jersey.
that lot.
Yeah, New Jersey's different.
Are we at a point now where we can move on to the rest of Mr. Taylor's?
Yes, please.
I'm on the last page, page 2 of 2, item 7, under C, Charlie.
That stuff, right?
Oh, yes, thanks. Page 4 of 4, sorry. We have some pictures and diagrams of the racking system in these color photos. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we submitted that, and basically it's a piece of equipment, hydraulic lifting that can raise a car and then you can park the car under it.
This picture that we have here of the front location that we were talking about before, the different colors and that blue car in the front, all the way in the back right in that garage, that looks like that's the car on the first level, and the racking system will be behind, right there, is that correct?
The racking will be behind that red car?
No, that car is in the racking system on the,
So the red car, they have 2 cars stacked front to back that are inventory.
I thought they were stacking them above.
Not anymore, only behind the house now. So in that lawn area that's to the west of the house,
Right,
they have 2 cars like this and another 2 cars directly behind it.
oh,
And then
Yeah.
behind that is actually a row of 8 double-stacked, 16 cars stacked too high.
okay, so they'll be blocked by this structure in the front then?
Yeah.
Well, no. So above that red car, on the right-hand side of that rendering, directly behind that, you will see a second row of cars up above their roofs.
Okay, that's what I was,
That red car.
Yeah, but it's good.
okay, that's what I was getting at, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to 7 and explain that. Details should be provided.
Here it is.
I think we did submit the detail of the racking system and a picture of it. There's not much to it, it's basically just a metal structure that lifts the car.
Are they bolted down?
Are they bolted down?
Yes.
Do these require building permits?
For this?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at pictures that's marked auto stack.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Not current knowledge.
So they don't have to be anchored. You're not,
They are anchored, they are anchored.
but you're gonna anchor them in the asphalt?
So
You're gonna
one
have
of
a
the
problem
things
with
that you
that.
have to remember is that anytime, whether inside or outside, any form of lifts, racking system, or anything else, you need to have a construction permit. And the reason being is that this specific make, let's say auto stacker, they're gonna have requirements
I
of
knew
how
you knew the
you.
answer, Kathy.
What's that?
I knew you knew the answer.
I know it well, because I have one right now inside a building that has an issue. So what happens is each manufacturer specs has certain requirements how they are into the grade of the ground outside, in this case, or inside a building. What happens is normally an engineer has to give us a letter stating that auto stackers, for example, requires 3/4-inch lag bolts into a 4-inch concrete. If that's the case, what happens is that when they decide, if this were to go through, and they decide to put these in, they will come to us for a building permit. We also have to look at the clearances that manufacturer specs, because they override us as well, is that they will get a permit to show how they are putting these into the ground. They are very similar to an interior racking system, which by code has to have a permit. So when they put these in, they'll be coming to me and to our construction official. They'll be giving us what is required. It's not a difficult task by any means, is because pretty much 90% of the information is in this manufacturer specs.
Right,
So
and that's
they-
what I was getting, I wanted to ask them, they also require electrical permits, because these are gonna be,
Right, because they're
you're gonna do
going
the hand crank with the pump, or you're gonna do the electrical?
I don't think it's pump. It's pump. It's not electrical, it's pump.
So which one of these on here is, so it's a hand pump, you're not gonna use the electrical?
I don't think so. You know, we not,
So-
I tell you one, yeah, it's,
This is why we're asking for what are you actually doing? And is the operation, are you gonna use the locking mechanism?
yes.
So where will the locking mechanism go? And are any of these battery operated instead of
It's
direct?
not
electric?
battery, you know, it's some pump all the day, you know. It's pumping all the day.
Which one of those shows the pump or how that's operated?
If it's a hydraulic pump,
Yeah.
doesn't it still need electricity to run?
Or is it battery powered?
So you need wiring to go with it.
So you need wiring or you need a place to put the batteries, and there's also a stanchion that has controls. So I'm just trying to make sure that the right stuff is on the plans, that it actually fits and it all makes sense. So when you do go to get permits, it doesn't turn into a cluster.
Right.
If this was anything else, if this was a shed, we would ask for the detail to be on the plan. They still have to go to construction for zoning, but to have those questions answered of how are we getting electric out to them, or are we doing batteries at each one? Are those batteries protected? Are the systems locked? Because we don't want a kid being able to get out there and operate these things.
They go on light at night,
So those were the questions the answers I was trying to get from the applicant.
The other thing too is, with the asphalt you talked about in the front, is the asphalt gonna go to the back? Because I'm almost sure that they have to be anchored into concrete, not asphalt. Listen, I worked in warehouse my whole life, you can't anchor into asphalt. You can check on that, I'm just giving you a heads up.
Okay, we check, yeah, whatever we need to do, we do it, yes.
Yeah, you have to.
It's marginal, it's,
Sure.
the tools are already there, the tools are already there.
I thought that your testimony was that you were only making the improvements to the front, what is visible to the public, the front, the driveway, and the front pavement. I thought that was your testimony.
If it's, that is.
I think the point is, though, is that-
If we have to put a
Yeah.
small slab to anchor these in, then we could
Yeah.
be able,
Okay.
You're gonna have to put in whatever's needed to meet the
Well, we'll
manufacturer's
find out.
specifications.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what am I being asked to approve tonight?
So are the details,
I think the rack system is basically covered by, it needs a building permit, we have to comply with the manufacturer specs of the building permit.
They're not gonna get a building permit or electrical permit for us, even though obviously you guys have jurisdiction as to what the size that you're looking for, or whatever. They're gonna have to adhere to our IBC requirements and our electrical code standards. we've not let things out of our office just for the heck of it. We have to then make sure that they meet all the requirements, and if not, then at the end of the day, they have to have as-built, they have to have engineer's letters, they have to have everything else in order to meet the requirements, or they're not getting a certificate of approval on these. And that's dictated by the state of New Jersey, not by a township.
So that's another, requirement, a condition of, would be a condition of approval.
There are oversights through all these years that you folks have approved that have come to my office for permits from electrical, plumbing, fire, whatever the case may be, and we have always enforced that, because we have to enforce the state's rules.
The building exterior, what changes or upgrades are we making?
Well, we didn't, so are the details gonna be shown on the plans, and are you guys gonna specify the color?
Color?
Are you using the yellow ones? Or are you gonna use galvanized? I understand what's in the photographs, but AutoStacker also makes yellow versions of this. I'm trying to find out, so when this gets built, the board doesn't say, all those stacks are bright yellow. That's not what we envision. So I'm just trying to get clear on the record what you are putting in. Are they gonna be black or galvanized?
Are these gonna, they're not gonna be like pink, are they? They're gonna be either stainless, or we need to know the color, so when we drive by it, we see what we see.
Nice. Even if you do drive by it, they will be in the building. So
Right, they'll be,
so you
right.
won't even, yeah, it won't be an
But-
eyesore.
We still just have to identify
So
the
for
color.
color, we're just gonna put down not an eyesore?
That's a good one.
Neutral tone.
So neutral, so we'll say black or galvanized. It'll be
Yes.
one of those.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along from number 7. All right, Pat, so you-
The building exterior upgrades, what changes are we making to the building? I know we're gonna
I
paint.
remember what it looked like before. I forget
There's
what
gonna be lights on the building?
It's gonna be light, it's gonna be clouds, it's gonna be. Yeah.
what it looked like. Yeah.
Oh,
Was a picture, so
Yeah.
it's a mustard
I
color.
mean, color over.
Ugly,
Think
so.
of it.
yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a much bigger color.
Next question.
Wait a minute,
Wait, excuse me,
wait.
this is the picture we're talking about?
Yes.
And in response to Mr. Taylor's question, this is what the front of the building is gonna look like?
Yes,
Which is the one with this blue car in the front that I referenced
Yes.
before? Okay, thank you.
All right, I have a question on the lights.
Both buildings will be fully painted?
yes.
Okay, what are you doing with lights?
Tish, they're adding a couple lights. They are full cutoff lights. They're non-glare. They're 3,000 degree Kelvin, and they're only a couple foot candles to a half a foot candle. It's not like we have 20, 30, 40, the way you see with dealerships. It's basically like retail parking lighting.
Okay. Thank
Are they
you.
gonna be up front, in the back?
So they're all, one on the building, actually, one on the side of the building, one on the front of the building.
And they're facing down.
They are downward, full cutoff lights.
Okay, thank you.
There was a question, number 9, about limiting deliveries and trash pickup from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. That's agreeable?
Yes. We could put that into the contract of the caretaker.
And then the recycling, we don't have a designated area for it, but what kind of recycling and trash are they expecting? It would be mostly from the house, mostly from the dealers, who would you get?
From the house, you know, who's gonna be, one guy is gonna be legal, you know, 24/7, you know, just regular garbage, you know.
Is it, what you're saying, I think, is that the garbage and recycling will be limited mainly to the house, so the whole site would be consistent with one house.
Yes.
But any any commercial garbage that's
No.
generated?
No.
I didn't finish my question.
Okay.
Any commercial garbage that's generated will be picked up by a private carter, or that will just be put in the household can? What's your plan for that?
It should be extremely limited, because there's gonna be no, you know, refurbishing of any sort. It should be extremely, limited. Is there a preference that you want it kind of picked up privately or taken out?
Well, if it's commercial, it should be picked up privately, if there's an office. If your site's generating, site's generating.
Yeah, again, we are, in the plans, we're not expecting any commercial trash, so it should really just be household trash.
Bill, the next series of questions have to do with fencing and landscaping. Could you go through that a little bit?
Well, yes, it's proposed to remove the fences that are running alongside of the house to the property lines, so we're taking those down, not replacing them, keeping the perimeter fencing as it is. And the landscaping, well, we propose some additional landscaping up on Route 38, as I said before, and some foundation planks in front of the building. Mr. Taylor's asking for additional plans, but we'll agree to work with along to the satisfaction.
You're gonna provide for some street trees, and also you'll increase the intensity of the buffering shrubs in the front.
Yes.
And then there was the question about locating and replacing 8-inch caliber trees. Are we removing any trees like that on site?
We are not, no.
And then what you're gonna provide, when we supplement it, is basically what you think you can fit on the site, given its limitations, and the current buildings that are there.
Can you work with Mr. Taylor on that? Yes.
I think that's it. We're basically agreeable to working out the landscaping and adding the additional landscaping Scott requested.
Well, that would be on 15, right?
Yes.
But with regards to 13, paragraphs 13 and 14, there's no trees to be provided on the proposed.
Yeah, we agreed to provide, I think we would need, was it 2 trees? So we agreed to that.
Yes.
We also agreed to the additional buffering, number 15.
Okay. Anything else?
I think we covered it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board? Professionals?
Yes, sir.
No? Public? Any public comments on this application? And do we have anybody online?
We do have one person online.
Does that person have a question?
They're not unmuting, so I'm going to say no.
Okay. Hearing no public comment, then we'll turn this back to the board. We need to take some action. And
I usually don't do a summary, but I'd like to do just a short
Okay.
summary. I think what controls this, arising out of the use variance, and Mr. Taylor went over it, there were a number of conditions that we carried forward. Like 1 dealer on site at a time by appointment only, certain number of cars, certain number of dealers. And also that the person living in the house would be connected to the business as a caretaker. All that carries forward. And I think those conditions, plus the plan, help put controls on this small, difficult site. What I see for the town on this application is actually a terrific opportunity, because what you need for this site, I think, is something that's low intensity. You don't need an auto body shop or a great local car dealer or a great repair shop. You need something that's low intensity, and this internet-based business is very low intensity with very few people on site, very little activity. So I think that's positive. The other positive is, you know, we worked with the board throughout December and now tonight to address landscaping, lighting, the colors of the building, things like that. And this gives everyone an opportunity to fix this site up. And I think the business is small enough to have low intensity, but big enough to fix the site up and make it look a lot better than it does. I think the conditions and the plan will help control it. So I hope you find your way to approve it. Thank you.
In answer to Mr. McLaughlin's question about reducing it to 5
No, it's not.
dealers and 10 cars, is there a reason, a limiting on that, besides money and profits and things like that? But does the state regulate that at all?
I don't think the state regulates it that I'm aware of, but, you know, we want to fix the site up, and the site does accommodate a certain number of cars and vehicles. And I think if the dealers were on site, it would be different, but since they're really off-site, and what I remember from the first hearing was actually Paula's example, where she bought a car on the internet, and then it was delivered to her house from Arkansas. So that's kind of our business model. That's how we're gonna operate. So for me, it's the perfect use for this site.
Okay, thank you. What action does the board wish to take?
I make one more comment. Mr. Hurley, these fellows have to overcome. This is right off the internet, and this is right on Google. The New Jersey Commission on Investigation on Wednesday released a report targeting business known as multi-dealer location that the agency said enable hundreds of car dealers to operate beyond the state's authority. I stand corrected. There's 11 multi-dealer locations in New Jersey, including 5 in Bergen and Passaic. They say are part of a system that is open, again, I'm not accused of, that's open to abuses, such as non-payment of taxes by the dealers at the location, consumer fraud, suspicious financial transactions on a domestic and international scale. Most of the report focused on the activities at one MDL, which is the one I brought up in, he has 1,214 dealers at that location. And that the dealer was, this particular dealer, was a sham that served the foundation for an amalgam of consumer and bank fraud, unpaid taxes, suspicious financial transactions, and other questionable, unscrupulous, and possibly illegal activities. And my whole thing with this is, how are these folks going to control what the 15 dealers do on that location? You know, and I just, there's this, right off the internet, and this is stuff that goes on, that's why I thought, well, there, I think it's more scale in the beginning, it might be proven on the part of the Hainesport Township, and see what goes on. So they'd be the 12th dealer, like this in the state, the 12th.
What are we to do with that information?
Pardon me?
What are we to do with that information that you just gave us? I mean, what relevance does it,
Okay, I'll tell
what
you
relevance
what,
does it have
this
to
is
the
what-
application?
Okay, well, you answered me a question, I'm gonna give you an answer, and you know, you're gonna vote the way you want. We're voting on something that he has no control over. And he has no control over what's gonna happen. And he can't, I hear this is supposed to happen, one guy there, one guy. And if you believe it, then, you know, you guys can vote the way you vote, you know.
what I hear you,
testimony has he?
Yeah, what I hear is-
Identify who owns it.
your basic objection then, if I understand correctly, is to the whole internet dealership business. And it shouldn't matter to you whether it's 5 or 15, because the whole concept is suspect because of the fear of illegal activity.
No.
No,
Well,
It just proved, it just,
is that what you just said?
the article proves out my concern. It's just an article, written. We don't even know if it's been fact checked or not. It was an article that came out of the Bergen Record. But the board's being asked to vote on a non-typical application where a typical owner comes in here, stands here, and attests that this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. He's gonna have 15 tenants in here that, I'm not convinced he's gonna be able to control. We still don't even know who owns it. I mean, I don't know what legal,
Well, let me ask you a question. The state has allowed these, am I correct?
11.
Correct. So
This
the
was the
point
state.
is, if the state is allowing this, then at some point, the state, which is the hardest to get to do anything, is that they've approved 11 of these. Much like anything moving forward in our advanced world, is that at one time Uber Eats didn't exist, Amazon didn't exist. All these things that are modern today, that many of us agree or disagree with, somewhere along the line had to go through the state of New Jersey to get approval.
Hey, listen.
So at this point, is that we're not the first ones to have this through the state. Again, I'm not saying good or bad on either one of these. As a zoning official, I have to be objective no matter what. I can't take sides. And that's what I'm doing here, is the fact is that if the state of New Jersey's already approved 11 of them, we're not the first one. So, yes, everything is suspect. Childcare is suspect. Everything that we do today is suspect because of the world that we live in. I don't necessarily think is that we can always be so negative in the world, because the fact is that everything's online anymore. Everything we do is online. So we have to be suspect of everything that we do in this world today. From literally using our phones right here, looking up things. Who's not watching us on this phone?
I can answer your question also about what do we do with this information, and the answer is nothing. Because the witness is not here, the witness is not sworn in, and the witness is not under oath where they have to be cross-examined or can be cross-examined. This doesn't come close to satisfying the municipal land use law. We were here, we were sworn in, we were cross-examined, we were asked various questions. We met the land use law. Reading something off the internet, whether it's Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl or this report, is not evidence, and it's not something that the board can consider.
I can summarize what you're going to be voting on.
Okay, please do.
Please.
A lot of these conditions will be more elaborate when I do the resolution, so I'm just summarizing. Use variance, which is granted, the board reserved the right to determine the number of dealers they will allow. They're requesting 15 with 30 cars. They have a number of bulk variances that are involved. Most of them are existing conditions, the major one being the number of parking spaces as enumerated in the Taylor Design report. So you would be voting on preliminary and final site plan approval with the bulk variances, and the more significant conditions, I'll put all of them in, but the significant ones are they have to resolve any issues that come up in the phase 1 or phase 2 report and do a cleanup if required. The driveway will have either fencing or bollarding, if that's the word, to stop site through traffic. The vehicles to be parked at the site will be driven to the site, not dropped off in trailers. There will be no banners, flags, or advertising other than the sign they have requested. The resident of the dwelling will be a caretaker, not a dealer. You won't count as one of the dealers. There will be no car prep or rehab, reconditioning done at the site. There will be an asphalt overlay. The stacked cars, the structures on which we're supporting those stacked cars will have to meet code requirements as far as construction and electrical permits if they are required. The stacked car structures will be either black or galvanized racks. Both buildings will be painted. The lighting plan is acceptable to the planner. It is downward full cutoffs. There is limited commercial trash, and the landscaping will be subject, the final landscaping plan will be subject to the planner. I think that covers most of it. If there's anything else, it'll get put into the resolution in my notes.
How about fencing?
Preliminary and final with the bulk variances.
Should we address fencing in this?
I'm sorry.
Fencing around the property or certain areas?
He did say something like that.
I'm not sure I understand what you're.
Existing.
I think they addressed the fencing.
Yeah,
That was
he did
addressed.
We did?
Yeah, the
All
existing
right.
perimeter fence is to remain.
And
I
then,
believe was the
and that
testimony.
one access
And the access.
from the driveway has to be followed.
Okay. All right.
And the final condition would be that any conditions that were enumerated in the original use variance resolution would continue to apply unless they've been waived
Okay.
by this approval.
Okay. So somebody want to make that motion?
I'll motion to approve that.
I'll
Exactly
second
what you
it.
said.
Yes, I
I'll
definitely.
second that.
Yes, I think that it's good. If you guys are okay with, Scott's okay, if all these things are in the resolution, I think that's great. Kathy feels that she can monitor this afterwards as far as the zoning
Right.
is concerned, if she's comfortable with that. After having gone through a very tough election recently, one of the main things that came up to me constantly was Route 38. And why can't we bring in any new businesses? Why can't we clean up anything? This is important to our residents. So I think it's good that
Can
you're
we,
trying to come
can
in.
we make sure it says
And I'm
a
doing-
maximum of 15 dealers?
Yeah,
Let's
maximum.
max it.
I think it's good.
I mean, the verbiage, obviously, we trust you guys. and-
Yeah.
Yes.
And you'll
This-
see it before Bob
Yeah.
shares, it's not, we coordinate to make
No.
sure that
H did.
we cross-reference.
Right,
Yes.
and obviously, Kathy, this is gonna be, I think, a little bit of pressure on you to, listen, you've
Oh, that's
done your
the
job
first.
forever. Not that it's, this is what happens.
I just,
But
in
we
a
trust you.
comment from zoning, as I look at this, I have to give the applicant credit for cleaning this place up. If any of you had been out there over the past probably 15-plus years,
I bought a car there.
so you're well aware of that it was not in great condition. It was
Horrible.
improved way back in the 80s, long before, when I was still like a teenager then. And then, after seeing that, after Bob had sold his place to the Rosenthal's, and the amount of cleanup that was done on this job, that I definitely would have to give some kudos to the applicant. And that was even before, at the point of knowing whether he was gonna be approved or not, or still whether it could be approved or not. At this point, it's, again, if any of you have history on this property, you're gonna see a major difference of what it was compared to this today.
That's important.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Tricocci, and I seconded it. Are there any questions on the motions? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Tricocci?
Yes.
Mr. Goldpfeiffer?
No.
Mrs. Torti,
Yes.
Mr. McKay,
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore,
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Ms. Costco,
Yes.
and I already said Mr. Pfeiffer, sorry.
Okay, so the motion carries,
Yes.
and good luck with it. Thank you. Mhm. All right, next we have the minutes.
No, we have D. We have D.
We have the minutes from the
No,
November.
D.
What?
We have to do
What is that? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Discussion and review of Hainesport Township Ordinance amending Chapter 44 of the Code. And we have a copy of Resolution 24-2.
That's the ordinance, 2024-2.
Okay.
If I may, Chair, I can review this?
Yes.
All right, so this is a consistency review. As a requirement for our third round compliance, I'm also, take a step backward, happy to report that we received final judgment yesterday from Judge Covert for our round 3 affordable housing obligation. We do have a couple conditions which we will be meeting and then readdressing with the judge in May, but we're pretty much at the finish line. And this is one of the many compliance mechanisms, things that we had to take care of per our negotiations with Fair Share Housing and as approved by Judge Covert. But this amends Chapter 44 Affordable Housing, adding Section 35 to that ordinance, which basically requires the municipality through any future rezonings or variances or any existing multifamily or single-family attached developments as defined as approvable. Generally, that really affects our R1, R1A, and R2 at a gross density of 6 units to the acre or more, or permits an increase in the already permitted density of a multifamily or single-family attached zone or development resulting in 5 or more new net dwelling units on the property. So that, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Scott, you can clarify that for me, that would only affect our R3 zone, which is apartments and townhouses, so this would affect attached.
Or any others that were granted by use variance.
Well, this is moving forward, nothing behind us. Correct. Or, like I said in the beginning, through any kind of variances or redevelopments agreements. So this would require the town to have a mandatory set-aside of either 15% if those are rentables or 20% if they are for sale. So that would be like the 39 units at the Glen at Masons Creek. Those are for sale units. Whereas that would be for 20% mandatory set-aside. So if there were 100 market rate houses, the township would be required to set aside 20 of them for low to moderate income residents. And then for the rent, the mandatory set-aside will be 15%. So there's no usurping that, there's no in lieu of, this is a mandatory requirement. And this is as negotiated and agreed upon with Fair Share and approved by the courts. And this will be on for public hearing at the Township Committee's meeting next week.
And is that for any projects that come in the future, not
Correct.
anything that's underway now?
Correct.
Correct, what, it will be for anything in the future?
Future.
Okay.
Do you know if requirements like this, similar to this, are also being adopted by neighboring towns?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Hainsport's not alone in this.
No, and unfortunately, we're one of the last to finally have a judgment on this matter, since our third round ends in 2025.
And on the percentages that we have, the 15% for the round, 20% for the other, are those percentages typical?
Yes.
Thank you.
So again, this is for master plan consistency, for your review and comments, so that we can move this forward to the governing body next week.
Now how does that affect the Affordable Housing Fund? In terms of, does that, I mean, like sometimes we assess for something that's not going to be housing, like a construction, commercial, so there's a contribution to the Affordable Housing Fund. Does that go away?
No, this is a completely separate matter, so generally this would affect, a developer, a market rate developer would come in and be required, like Orion Homes or D.R. Horton, or any of the other developers, and it's general practice that the municipality would not support a developer's obligation to build those houses. They are making enough money that they can fund the affordable housing obligation as part of their development approvals. Generally, that trust fund is used for 100% or per our agreement. Some of our compliance mechanisms are market to affordable, so we would assist five persons who are qualifying as low and moderate income to be able to purchase a market rate home, and we would make that affordable. But those would be deed restricted. There are deed restriction requirements. There are no rehab units, as was done in round 2. Generally, that's kind of on the wayside, but this is to help fund 100% projects. I'm sorry, I take it back. There is some rehab for some of the existing 39 units. Those have been targeted. Those are over 20 years old. Some of those residents, those homeowners, they would receive assistance to make general upkeeps, HVAC. There's certain specific things that money can be used for. But we do have an administrative agent that helps us put our approvals in place in action. So kind of these approvals, what we went through yesterday is the easy part. Now the hard part is actually implementing the plan and spending that money.
Can I have a question to Bob? If passed, if this ordinance is passed, what's your view on whether it would apply to existing approvals? I'm thinking of the condo project off of Hainesport, Mount Laurel Road.
It's
Condo project.
Well, I asked you, is it retroactive or you?
It's not.
Well, it's a condo project where it's received final site plan approval, my recollection is case, although it hasn't been built yet. One would think it would not be retroactive to that application, but I would think it would not be retroactive, but I'm raising the issue.
I don't think so either, but I'm not 100% sure.
Do we have an area?
Is there any guidance from the judge?
It is not retroactive.
It is.
It is absolutely not retroactive. It's moving forward.
And it's only new construction.
Correct. So any existing approvals will not be affected by this.
Good, just to clarify that.
Yeah.
Is there an area where we would be building? A specific area, or are all these building, or, at one time it was 20% of a new build area?
That's not really part of this process. Nothing has been identified through this particular process. It's just basically policy stating anything moving forward and presented to the board or to the committee must have a set aside of, that fall into these categories, specifically delineated in this ordinance. But it doesn't identify locations or areas.
Okay, does the 20% still have a bearing or not?
Yes, the 20% is for sale units.
Okay.
For units that are available to low and moderate incomes that are for sale units, like the 39 units at the Glen at Masons Creek. That's a good example. And that would be 20% set aside.
Okay.
But they're already built.
I'm just using that as an example. If there was like another Glen at Masons Creek proposed somewhere.
But those 39 units are all affordable housing. So it would be.
Correct,
If someone comes along and wants to build 100 market rate properties, this town's probably not big enough for that, 50 market rate. Of those 50, 20%, if they're for sale, 20% of them would be, so, I don't know, my math, 10 of them, is that right? 10 of them would be set aside for affordable housing, the other 40 could
Correct.
go market rate.
Exactly.
So we have to take action on this by form of a motion and a second, that it's in compliance with the master plan. That's,
Okay.
that's right? Okay, that's what we need a motion on, folks.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, a motion and a second, and any questions on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
yes.
Mrs. Twitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Tricocci?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
And Mr. Krollfeld?
Yes. Now we're at minutes. I got a thing with this. I always keep jumping to minutes, missing something.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve and file the minutes of from November 1st, 2023.
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Is this the meeting, what is the date of this meeting?
November 1st, you were there.
I was here, okay, yes.
Mayor Gilmore? Mr. Tricocci?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
And Mr. Krollfeld?
Yes. Next is Resolution
Yes.
24-6, JDEB Marne Highway, also known as the, is it pronounced, bless you.
Bless you.
Is it pronounced Rife?
Yes.
WL Rife Incorporated Property, Oil Company. Need a motion and a second on that resolution.
I'll make that motion.
You cannot.
I can't.
Nope, you can't.
Okay.
I'll move.
Mr.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, that's great. I thought just to accept the resolution.
And then Mr. Tricocci, Mrs. Kelly, Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Krollfeld.
I'll second it. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. Krollfeld?
Yes.
Mr. Tricocci?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
And Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Next is Resolution 24-7, Woods Machinery, formerly known as Bobcat. Need a motion and a second on that.
I make a motion that we accept Resolution 2024-07.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Twitty?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Tricocci?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
And Mr. Krollfeld?
Yes. Resolution 24-08, CVS Pharmacy. This was the one regarding putting air conditioning in on their facility.
Right.
And we need a motion and a second on that.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Twitty?
Yes.
Mr. Tricocci?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
And Mr. Krollfeld?
Yes. Last resolution, 24-09, which is the request for the one-year extension on the BTC, the third Hainesport LC, which was discussed here at the beginning of the meeting. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second,
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Baggio?
yes.
Mrs. Twitty?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Tricocci?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Cosco?
Yes.
And Mr. Krollfeld?
Yes. Correspondence is next. We don't have any. Professional comments.
Nothing more?
Nothing more? Mrs. Nuke?
I'll just say no.
You say no? Okay. All right.
Professional comments?
Board comments. We have any board comments? I do. I want to thank every one of you for signing the card that I'm assuming Mrs. Tiver sent around for the death of our grandson. I greatly appreciate it, and so does my wife and our daughter, who's still having a problem even talking to us right now. And I also received one from the Township Committee. Did Mrs. Costco did that? I'll thank you for it, but you can let them know. Thank you, okay? Public comments. No public comments. Okay. Well, let's,
Do you have anybody on,
pardon?
anybody online?
They didn't unmute, so I'm going to assume they have has no public comments.
Oh,
That's their name.
they didn't wake up before, so I didn't give them a chance this time. Okay, we're at adjournment. Need a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Done.